Evening, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of WrestleWatch here. It is an all Central Time episode of WrestleWatch. Isn't that amazing? I am Ryan here.
And I am Doug, also in God's chosen time zone.
I don't know if I can go that far yet, but I'm here in this time zone. It is happening. I am in Iowa City right now, home of the Hawkeyes of the Big Ten Athletic Conference. I'm at a hotel right now on tour with a band.
I have never been to University of Iowa ever, which is weird because I feel like a lot of people just in my area, when they were like in their 20s, they they love to go to the football games in Iowa, and I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Iowa. I mean, I'm not the biggest football guy, but it's like I don't know. I think there's better places to go than go to Iowa. I
Well,
don't
there
know.
was a lot of corn. I will say that on the drive over, we drove from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Last night we had a show, and then now we have a day off today. That's why I'm able to be here. Otherwise, I'd
That
be
sound
working.
that sounds like listen. I am a Midwest defender. I am sorry to hear that because that is the dullest drive ever. Is Indiana straight to Iowa? I imagine that had been awful.
Yeah. It was. There was not a lot going on. We're going and doing a show outside of Omaha tomorrow. We did Riot Fest, which was in your city.
That yes, in Douglas Park.
Well, technically, I guess that was Bridgeview rather than Chicago, if I want to be
Well, I
particular.
thought they wait a minute. I thought they moved it to Douglas
It
Park.
is at Douglas Park, yeah.
Because I thought it was a thing where it was in Bridgeview
Yeah.
and because there was some issue where the people in Douglas Park didn't want Riot Fest because it's loud, obnoxious, but it was just a vocal minority, and then like all the other people are like, no, we want Riot Fest. So then they moved it back. I thought,
Well, yeah, it was at Douglas Park, yeah.
yeah, okay, cool. Because I've been to I know where it was going to be in Bridgeview, and that's an obnoxious place to get to. Like there's
Yes.
just no, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so,
Douglas Park is lovely, right off the Pink Line.
yeah, and it was nice that it didn't rain the day I was there. And I got to watch one of NoFX's last performances on stage, so that was a really cool experience. And yeah, so that's what's new with me on the road. The road diaries here.
See, I'm not completely up on my NoFX. I could probably name like one. Let's see, what's the one song? I can tell you one song probably from NoFX I can name, and is it Bob?
Yeah, that's a song. Yeah.
That's a song of theirs.
Yeah.
That's the only NoFX. Is that one of their more popular ones?
I can't remember. Honestly, like everybody was just hopping around. I couldn't remember what they played. It was just a great time.
Okay,
uh,
I've seen them live at like a Warp Tour probably like 20 years ago.
yeah.
Well, maybe 15, but still,
Rest in peace, Warped
that's
Tour, as in thank you that you're gone.
yes.
But
So I think we'll go ahead and get started. So
yeah,
anyway, good banter, but this is the WrestleWatch podcast. We are the only weekly podcast where we discuss free agency, contract negotiations, and the overall landscape of talent and management dynamics in the world of professional wrestling. You can follow us on the WrestleWatch YouTube channel where we stream the show live every week, especially if you're listening right now. Or you can find us on your podcast catcher of choice. You can follow us on X, where we post updates, including our meticulously curated WrestleWatch tier list, and on Substack for long form articles, where we analyze the likelihood of talent leaving, joining, and of course, jumping between various wrestling promotions with a special focus on WWE, AEW, New Japan, and Stardom.
yeah.
And
So
there's a lot to
yeah,
go
go
through
ahead.
today.
Yeah, there was, and we actually did post an article this past Friday on the Substack that was called "Residencies of Honor," which went in depth about the possible ways that Ring of Honor could structure itself going forward. With tapings and live events and things of that nature. So if you have not read that article yet, go over to our Substack, wrestlewatch.substack.com, to see what we've got cooking in our idea banks there.
I want to see what we got cooking. Like The Rock, who is not on the tier list right now.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, he has some cousins on it, but not him.
I did see that he apparently was asked to do hot ones,
Really?
and the YouTube show, and he asked, would it be possible if they, instead of the chicken wings, they did grilled salmon, and that just made me hate him even more.
Well, speaking of things that I hate, here's the current WrestleWatch tier list. As of last week, or this was actually 2 weeks ago's tier list. I'm sorry, I have the wrong tier list up, but so just imagine that it's different from what's currently on the screen.
Ultimately, it's not going to matter because it's going to be
Change.
outdated in shortly anyway.
And so I think what we want to start with is, well, the reason why this episode is called "The Life of the World to Come." That's a quote from the Nicene Creed, and of course, the biggest redeemer of all, not Jesus, no, it's Miro, and he maybe is going to be leaving AEW soon. It sounds like there's been reports now from a number of outlets that Miro has requested his release from AEW. Thus far, there have been no word of AEW granting that release. In addition, there is also no word of WWE having any interest in the Redeemer Miro, who was formerly, of course, Rusev, for a number of culturedress years in WWE. So, Doug, first off, let's consider. I would say let's kind of look through the flowchart of what is going to be happening with Miro if he does get released, because we have two really only destinations that we're talking about with the tier list. Of course, is WWE or New Japan at that point. So when we're looking at possibly putting him on the tier list, we're saying the odds of him going to one of those promotions versus not going to one of those promotions. So with that being the scene set, first off, do you think that's a good move for Miro as a person, a good move for AEW for him to depart from there? And then, of course, where do you think that he might end up from here?
So I think the thing with Miro is that he's obviously a guy that is very, very, very serious about himself and how he's presented creatively. Issue with him in AEW is that he'll get really hot and he'll go on a win streak and then he'll lose and then he doesn't want to be a part of whatever story they're doing anymore where he's losing. And whether or not that's right or wrong, like I'm not saying that he's got valid gripes, like especially if he thinks he's bigger than he's being presented. But I think that's what's going on. And he's an interesting one from some of the other, he's one of those, departures of WWE who were from the releases who joined, but he's not necessarily one of the disgruntled ones that regretted it immediately because he's already re-signed once.
Yes, yeah. He was on a contract that I believe was set to expire in 2027, I think, for the re-signing of it.
Yeah, right now, I think he's 2026 or 2027. So he's got a couple years left on this deal.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that he already re-signed once kind of shows that at least at one point he was pretty satisfied enough to re-sign with AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it could be that now that, Vince McMahon's gone and maybe the creative's a little bit better in WWE, or at least the creative direction's a little more consistent. Now that could be a change. But it could also just be that, you take a look at the things that have probably changed since then. I don't know how he went about things with the CM Punk era. I think he was kind of in line. He was more, on the CM Punk side in that whole thing. At least I remember he was definitely on Team Collision.
He was a collider, yes.
He was a collider. And so there could be that part of it as well. Having said that, I do think the only place he would go is WWE. He does not strike me as someone who's going to be grinding it out in present day New Japan, especially not now. So if he were to go to WWE, I think for me, everything kind of hinges on would Tony Khan let him out of his contract. I tend to think that Tony Khan would not. So I am going lean stay. I'm leaning stay.
So my feeling on it is somewhat similar. Of course, Miro is one of my AEW 9. which is my version of your Magnificent Seven. It's doing a little bit better than yours at the current moment.
Yes.
Um,
I might finish strong. We'll see.
you might finish strong, yeah. We and I believe that we're going to be talking about one of those remaining four on the Magnificent Seven coming up on this episode. So stay tuned for a little talk on some Magnificent Seven. So with Miro, I think that I don't see his place within WWE is the problem. Now, I think that he could be a similar scenario to what we're seeing with CM Punk, or at least what CM Punk's greatest fans say is the situation with CM Punk, which is he was unhappy in AEW, and now he's game to do whatever in WWE. And I could see something like that happen with Miro. In the report, it was mentioned that one of the things that Miro was trying to pitch was a program with Jon Moxley, which would have been fun, and it probably would have been one of the few people that Miro would have been, chill with losing to.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We don't know. Maybe he wanted to beat Moxley. I don't know.
Maybe. But it kind of does bring up that thought of like, well, maybe, if he goes back to WWE, suddenly he'll be totally chill with losing matches for some reason that is inexplicable. But it might be because, I don't know, it seems like a few of the people that have gone back to WWE since have had a little bit of a, like, AEW is like the minor league kind of mindset when they were there, and trying to get wins over people because they saw it as, minor for comparison. I do agree that New Japan is very unlikely. I just can't see him wanting to do that. So if I were to rate this, I think that there is a possibility that it's possible he just doesn't wrestle anymore. That's also a possibility. Or he just goes around and tries to just, pick up paychecks where he can on indies because they will always put him over. Although I don't see him as necessarily the indies kind of guy. So for all of those reasons and what you're mentioning too about Tony Khan with releasing the contract, that's a very interesting angle there, because I feel like if somebody is disgruntled that Tony wouldn't mind releasing them, but at the same time I think that Miro's been so far away from TV for so long that I don't know. I don't see the use of keeping him in contract if he doesn't want to be in it, honestly. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
So where are you going? What are you saying?
I'm saying I would put it as a lean stay also,
Okay.
because I just think that the time window that we're looking at right now, the doubt of whether or not he would go to, again, it's mostly just looking at him going to WWE because it's doubtful New Japan, and then also on top of that, the Tony Khan, if he would even release him factor of it all. So that's why I would say lean stay at the very moment.
Yeah. That's, as I said, that's where I'm at as well. I do think that WWE would like to have him back, even if it is just do a program and then they do anything with him. Oddly enough, very similar to kind of what AEW did with him. But
do you see him as a speedster?
I see him as someone who they will, do the he's the classic. We build him up as a monster and then we don't know what to do with him afterwards.
Yeah,
that's been him.
Yeah. And I think that there are interesting things to do with him, and I think that his run as TNT champion is actually one of my favorite TNT runs, or favorite title runs in AEW period. I think that it had more focus given to it than a lot of other title runs have had.
And I think we need and we need to keep this in mind as well. That I think Tony Khan has demonstrated that he isn't going to start letting people out of their contracts.
Yeah.
He's, for the most part, he doesn't release people. The few that he did would be like Cody, and that wasn't even so much a release. That was just him agreeing not to do an option.
Continue. Yeah.
Yeah, and then William Regal, which he kind of indicated that he wished he didn't do that because he felt burnt on that.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to get released, and I think ultimately that's what it comes down to: is do I? And let's be honest, if they are getting this giant TV deal, Miro's getting paid.
Yeah.
See, he has no problem just paying him. He's
Yeah,
already on the
it's
books.
already money on the books. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
what's the issue of keeping him around on the books? And as our esteemed committee member TC here in the chat is saying, when Malachi Black asked for his release, TK just denied it and basically waited for Malachi to simmer down and play ball. I can see similar thing happening here. He also points out, which I think is actually kind of true, Miro in New Japan would rule, is the thing. Like, I agree with that. It would have a lot of fun, I think, in New Japan, but I don't know if he would go to New Japan, if that makes sense.
I feel like he hasn't really done much with Forbidden Door even. So it's
Yeah.
like he has not had a whole lot of New Japan interaction as is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I just don't see it. Uh, so I don't think Tony Khan also wants to set the precedent that that will make him look kind of weak,
Yeah.
where he's just getting kind of a pushover. I think he needs to. I don't think he's going to. I think he understands that he doesn't need that perception.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stick with lean stay.
Okay.
So where did the committee go with
the
this?
The committee went as a lean jump.
Okay.
Opposite side of the toss-up range from what we were thinking. I think that given that he is asking for his release, that might be why people are a little bit hotter on him leaving.
Which is fair.
But of course, jumping means, of course, not just leaving, but going somewhere.
Yeah, and it's like if it was up to him, completely, then yes, I'd probably go even higher than lean jump. But we know that ultimately this is a Tony Khan decision, and I just don't think Tony Khan's going to let him go.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is Miro, and we're going to keep an eye on that. I'm sure that we're going to find out some stuff soon about him, especially because if he has indeed asked for his release, I'm sure that we'll find out whether or not it's happened soon enough. Some other folks that might be leaving AEW, way that we're structuring this episode is dumping on AEW early because we're getting the cheese, baby. It is the Lucha Bros. Right now, they are as a likely jump from AEW. There was a report from a source that we're keeping an eye on as a possible new player in the scene for contract news and things like that, is PWN. They were reporting that they had already signed with WWE. There's been pushback, though, to that report from such places as Fightful, pointing out that, Ray Phoenix is still under contract with AEW. So some people have been feeling for a while now that possibly PWN, based off of the kinds of scoops that they're getting, might be getting these things directly from WWE. So that's the scene that we're setting here. But it does seem still that the needle's pointing in the direction of both of them leaving AEW formally and signing with WWE. Also, some of the rumors that were going around this week about them was that the confirmation that they would be going straight to main roster, which is in contrast to what seems to be possibly happening with Motor City Machine Guns. So with all of that being said, I suppose that because we have some doubt about the veracity of one of the sources and some disagreement between outlets, I suppose we have to put this as a vibe check. Doug, what's your vibe on the Lucha Bros right now?
So, in my opinion, I think the Lucha Bros are just about as good as gone as you can get. And I have gone safe jump on them. I think that they are out the door. I think they are going to be main roster. And I think it demonstrates, and here's the thing, they're key examples of what leverage is going to do, because they are one of the greatest tag teams, of the last decade, I would say. I don't think that's a controversial statement at all.
No.
Whereas you take the Motor City Machine Guns, they were maybe one of the better tag teams of the decade before.
Yeah.
And they're definitely on, the downside of their career. I mean, at one point, Alex Shelley was, retired and done, and then he came back. The Lucha Brothers, you could argue, are probably entering their prime money-making period. they've kind of done everything that they can do in AEW as a tag team, and if they want to continue that, I could understand maybe trying something a little different in WWE. Having said that, I do, I don't know, it's not like WWE's tag team division is exactly lighting the world on fire, but neither
Although,
is AEW.
well, yeah,
Neither is AEW's.
yeah, that's the thing. I remember that we had a conversation this past week in our committee room where you brought it up, I believe, in fact, Doug, about who is the top tag team of this year.
Yeah,
and that's a very hard question to answer.
Yeah, it's been a very bad year for tag team wrestling. If you were to sit down and list your top 5 favorite tag team match year to do that. And in terms of like the best teams, I mean, I've heard people say, Nathan Frazier and Axiom and in NXT, and I can't necessarily disagree. I feel like I need to watch a little bit more of them, but the fact that is kind of the level we're at, a team that largely doesn't really have a ton of buzz outside of the people who are watching NXT on a weekly basis.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm somebody that I only watch WWE for their pay-per-views. I don't watch weekly TV. It's too many commercials for me. And I know some people that watch it on the stream on Hulu the next day, where it cuts out a lot of it. It's only like Raw's only like 90 minutes or something like that. But so as somebody that has watched most of the Axiom Fraser duo's tag team defenses this year, I suppose, because they've been on the pay-per-views, they are that good, I think. And the problem for them is that there is a ceiling in WWE for tag team wrestling. And it's so and also the talent that they're working with in NXT, there isn't a lot of fantastic tag teams. That's why they had to fight the Good Brothers this year in NXT, when Good Brothers, even if you don't like them, their level of prestige to them is main roster. So they brought them down to NXT to lose to Axiom and Frazier to get a good match on the card. It was a really good match, honestly. Which is saying something for the Good Brothers these days. But the point is that I was going for the direction is that my list, I only have a top 3 right now for this year is Sting and Darby, Axiom and Frazier, and Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors. I could give you a long list of some names, but FTR hasn't really done much this year. The Young Bucks, they won the titles but haven't really done much with them this year. Grizzled young veterans have been going around and having fun for most of the year. I don't know, Subculture, the Melvin Express from the Kingdom, how about the Gorillas of Destiny, the Tongans? Is that the answer?
Some people might say astronauts, but I would argue that they've mostly been doing just single stuff this year.
Or some people might also say Hikuleo and El Phantasmo. Even when they broke up about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago by now, because of Hikuleo leaving New Japan. So it's been a very off year. Or as TC's pointing out, they're gonna probably have a banger against Ospreay and Fletcher coming up here, and it's gonna be a great match. But it's they just haven't had I don't think the Young Bucks have had a career year this year like they usually do. So yeah, Lucha Bros. I think the point is that there's a lot of room for them to do a lot of fun stuff in WWE if WWE allows them to have that space.
Yeah, I think Young Bucks still are just in the shadow of the Punk stuff. They're starting to finally get out of it completely, but it's still there a little bit just because their gimmick is still kind of coming from it. There's obviously with the thing with the scapegoat and the all-in footage showing that was only a couple months ago. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So I think that they're still wrapped up in that cloud, and I think that that's part of it. But in general, tag team wrestling's just not been good this year. So I have no issue. I have no issue with the Lucha Brothers jumping. I think that's going to be good for. I think that's probably good for both sides, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Because I think that AEW's done a lot with the Lucha Brothers. They've been there for 5 years. They've been there since the beginning. and they're trying to build up other tag teams in AEW quietly, but it's it's probably not a bad move to kind of move some people on.
Yeah. So your vibe, I'm guessing, based off of everything, and as our illustrious committee member TC points out, of course, that kind of jumping the gun feeling happened with the disagreement between sources because we were voting as all of this was breaking about the Lucha Brothers, or I don't know if we call it news is breaking, but the rumor mill started churning about them possibly signing formally. So I went with likely jump still because I'm still waiting for a little bit more confirmation, personally. But where did you go?
I went safe jump. I think that they are gone.
That's fair enough. And I think that that's where our committee went. Also, they went with safe jump. I think that it's going to happen. I think by the end of the year they'll probably show up in WWE, but I'm not there yet for it being the imminent moment for it. I also want to say that I think at the end of the year it would be a cool thing to do to look through the year that was, both from a jumps perspective, but also maybe we can do an episode looking at like the best things from the year. Even though that's not exactly what we usually do as a podcast, I think that would be an interesting episode to have.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes it's good to do something interesting like that.
I think even we could do an episode where it's just talking about the best like jumps. You know, like who's had the best year of people that have jumped or not jumped for that matter.
Yeah.
So.
Or the most interesting discussions. Like the next person I think is going to be kind of an interesting talking point.
Yeah. So the next person is Daniel Garcia, who he's been fun to follow, I guess, so far. I don't know what's going on with him. Allegedly, there were some people that were alleging that Warner Brothers has been asked to remove him from advertising, but then, like, literally within hours, AEW's Twitter account wishes him happy birthday. So, I don't know what's going on with this. It feels like it's in flux. How are you feeling about Daniel Garcia right now?
So, here's where I'm at with him. I've said this, every week that goes by, it's going to be more likely that he jumps.
Yeah.
That we don't see anything with him. And the fact that, as another week has gone by and we're not really getting any update on Garcia. Last week I voted toss up on him, and I feel that things have gone exponentially in the direction of jump, as we have still not heard anything. So I've actually skipped 2, and I went straight to likely jump.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm still lean stay because I have not seen or heard anything that's really pushing me in the direction of thinking that he's jumping. I think that a lot of this seems to be rumors that people are trying to push a little bit, and that they then get contradicted pretty quickly afterwards by other things that happen. So I still think that the jury's out on what's going to happen here with him. So that's why I'm still staying in the lean stay area of things.
That's fair. I just think the more silence we have, that's indicating to me that something is happening.
Yeah, but I also think that I've seen some people trying to push this feeling of, oh, well, he's going to just show up at the first NXT in Chicago. And I'm like, I don't think it's
that's
that level of what's happening here, you know? Although
I don't think we'll see that either.
Although I've been proven wrong many times with my bold claims. So I think that what TC is saying here in the chat is AEW almost certainly has the best offer. So I wonder if he's waiting for WWE to up their offer so he can justify jumping. I think that's exactly what he's been doing. Is that he's seen the big money offer from AEW and he's just waiting to see if WWE will come up just that little bit. Because there's no reason for him not to sign this contract with AEW if he wants to go to with AEW. He would sign it by now because it's an obscene amount of money from the perspective of WWE is what is being offered to him. So I think logically speaking, if he wanted to stay with AEW, he would have signed by now. I think that's why I'm still saying stay, because my feeling on it is that it doesn't seem that WWE has budged yet, from their position that he's getting this a ridiculous offer. I don't love personally like how it seems to be playing out from a negotiation standpoint, but I'm not super privy behind the scenes to every single thing that's happening with it.
Right. And what has our committee decided?
The committee has decided to put him up to lean jump, which I think is kind of the range that you were thinking, right?
Yeah, I mean, I went all the way to likely,
Yeah.
but I'm fine with lean. I think it's sort of in the middle of, between me and you.
Yeah, so we'll have Daniel Garcia up at lean jump for the next week, and I'm sure that we're going to vote on him again. He's our new favorite toy. It seems like on the WrestleWatch tier list is vote on Daniel Garcia week. It's the new Rossi watch from earlier in the year.
Yep.
Danny watch.
Absolutely.
And finally, of these possible AW departures, I believe this is the last one that we are looking at right now is Thunder Rosa. She is currently in the safe stay tier on our tier list. I think that is too high. I think that she should be coming off the tier list. I think that there was a little bit of a vibe that some people were trying to throw out there when it sounded like that her Mission Pro indie was going to be going on hiatus, and thinking that maybe that was a sign that she was going to go to WWE. It doesn't seem like that's what's happening here. She seems happy, and she's in AEW. She pushes AEW when she's even on Busted Open, which is not necessarily the most fair grounds to AEW at times, because she's a host on Busted Open still. So I think that there's not enough confidence to keep her remaining on the tier list. That's my take on this. What is your take, Doug?
So here's the way I'm going to go about it. The thing with her, first of all, we need to ask, okay, where would she go? Would she go to Stardom? I don't think so. Would she go to WWE? I think that would be the one that if we're going to consider, it would be that one. Like, that would be the jump. It would be to WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think that is likely at all. I think that, especially with her injury history, I think with what she has going on in AEW and Busted Open, and people keep throwing the Mission Pro stuff around. It's like I feel like we have this discussion with wrestlers every single time they take an indie booking or run like a side project. It's like that people got to get used to this idea that wrestlers are going to have side gigs.
Yeah,
and I don't think they have. Now, I did go safe stay. And the only reason I did that is just because I feel like we're perpetually like in this like limbo with her,
mm-hmm.
where sometimes there's talk of her going somewhere, but I would be fine with removing her. I went to safe stay, but it was one where I was almost like a coin toss, where I could say safe stay, kind of leave her on for a little longer, or remove now. I'd be fine with either one. I wasn't in a rush to take her off, but if I have no issue with saying take her off, as you said, I think that'd be fine too.
Yeah, and looks like also we have Feels in the chat finally, and he's saying looks like her shutting down Mission Pro really was the monetary reason. I can see WWE making an offer just for the express intent to poach a. Well, I don't know if she's an AEW original, but I would say that because she was after she came in during the pandemic as a member of the NWA roster actually, which is kind of interesting when they had her and Camille come in for a match or two. What crazy days they were. But I do agree that it does feel like that. She could be a prize that WWE could be looking at, which I think is also a discussion that's come up when we talk about Britt Baker sometimes, is that like that could be a prize,
And she's a Latin American star who's got name value, and people understand her, and she's got a cool little gimmick.
Yeah.
Like, I think she'd fit well in WWE to a certain respect. I think it's incredibly unlikely to happen, which is why I'm at safe stay.
Yeah.
But there was that, and that was the only thing that really kept.
Yeah, so I think at this point, let's reveal where we are looking at for Thunder Rosa on the tier list. And that is, we're going to remove her for right now because of low confidence.
That works for me.
Cool.
And okay.
Yeah, next up is we're going to go with one person that we're going to go two people coming up here who might be going to AEW was the rumor mill that was going on about them. Michael Oku is first. There hasn't really been much news about Michael Oku since All In Weekend. Some of our intrepid sources in the scene, in the thick of things in London, were saying that he was dropping his belts as a part of a planned thing by a bunch of the promotions there to get him the belts off of him before he was to sign with AEW. There were reports and sources that were saying that he had been offered a deal by AEW already at the time of All In. He did not show up on All In. And then this week, Sean Ross Sapp was asked about it on his Discord, and he said that he has an injury of some sort right now that might be hindering his going to AEW. That's the way that the question seemed to be pushing in that direction of asking about the odds of him going to AEW soon. So, Doug, what is your current feeling about Michael Oku? He's currently at a safe jump on the tier list.
Yeah, he's been up there, for about almost a month at this point. There were other reports of the injury, which could kind of push things back a little bit or put things on hold. I still think he's likely to jump.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't vote safe, but I did vote. I moved him down one to likely to jump.
Yeah. So I am still of the opinion that it is a safe jump. I think that it is going to happen. But yes, from the hearing of things about a potential injury that he's having to deal with, I fully understand why people might want to move him down one tier because the imminence might not be there.
Yeah, and we don't know what the injury is, and they're very quiet on it. So to me, I think maybe they might wait. So we'll see.
And the committee,
there's not really a rush.
Yeah, there's no rush. It seems that and that's why the committee also seems to be putting him down to a likely jump from Rev Pro at the current moment. Another person that is associated with Rev Pro is Alex Windsor. Currently, she is as a toss-up on our tier list. She of course fights for more than just Rev Pro in the UK, but that's kind of where she does most of her kicking in teeth. Recently, there were some people that had some vibes about the new World of Sport, which is actually not the same promotion as the old World of Sport, and it's called it's WOS Wrestling now because they don't have the trademarks. But she won their inaugural women's championship this past weekend, which to me doesn't really indicate much, just because essentially it's an indie. You're winning an indie title. Like, it doesn't say a lot to me about the odds of things, but some people were feeling that it could be an indication that she could be still kind of wanting to stay in the UK. It's been a couple ticks since we voted on her last. So, Doug, how are you feeling about the odds of Alex Windsor's? Let's look at it as like staying in the UK, staying in Rev Pro, or going farther afield.
Yeah, staying outside of our
the three majors.
Yeah, outside of the three majors. I would say that I've been kind of all over the place with her for a little while. Like, there was a time where I was kind of thought maybe she was a lean jump, and then there was a time where I thought toss up.
Yeah, and that's just because I looked it up. The last time we voted on her was September 6th, where she moved from lean jump down to toss up. So it's been 2 or 3 weeks since we voted on her last.
Yes. So I think I'm gonna go. I actually decided to go down again. I went to lean stay. I think that there's no indication that if she were going to AEW, it would happen now. I think she's been someone, more so than Ospreay, obviously, is someone who feels it's very important to be able to live in the UK, and I don't know that she's someone that, AEW would be flying across the Atlantic on a weekly basis, or would want to.
Mm-hmm.
That's a that's a big investment for Alex Windsor when they have other people to do that with. Osprey, I get. Osprey, I understand. So for those reasons, I'm kind of leaning stay right now.
Okay. I still feel that it's a toss up, but I understand people that have gone kind of down one tier on this. I think that's too. I like waiting at least a month before doing that kind of graduation. I think that it's a little bit quick to be looking at this like 2 or 3 weeks later and already wanting to keep on moving her down. That's my feeling on that kind of stuff. But yeah, as TC says, hopefully it goes better than the last World of Sport revival. Very good point on that one too. So
I mean, if you look, they had some. If you look at the people who are on that one, it's like some of them are, like I know they had Viper was on there with the snake.
yeah,
I remember that. We had Grado, and was it Davey Boy Smith Jr. was on there, I believe.
yeah.
Was Zack Sabre Jr. on there?
I don't recall if he was.
Okay.
But yeah, like
That's all I remember.
I can understand why folks are wanting to start marching her down the tier list on the vibes. But I think that I would have waited a week or two still before bringing her down one more tier. And just for the record, of course, everybody agrees with you, Doug. And they want to move her down to lean stay at Rev Pro.
Okay. Well, good. Congratulations, everyone, for agreeing with me.
I think this might be the last one for today's episode. As far as talent goes, I think this is the last one, but I can't remember because I'm not. Is there another one after
It
this?
is. Yes,
okay.
It is.
So this is your boy of the Magnificent Seven. It's Sheamus. We voted on him, I think, last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago now. Put him into the likely stay tier at WWE, and guess what happened, Doug? It's another one. The Magnificent Seven re-signing with WWE. How does that make you feel?
It's making me feel like I should just like say the opposite of whatever I think, and then maybe I'll be right more often.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Yeah. Yeah, but we did vote. Yeah, we voted on him last week. He was lean stay, and now he's likely stay. And now I think it's fair to say that he is confirmed stay.
Yeah.
And we could take him off. So right now, and the Magnificent Seven, I think there's only 3 left, right?
Yes, there are 3 left, and 2 of them are on the tier list. We have Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn on the tier list, and your boy, our boy, Uncle Al himself, AJ Styles, is not on the tier list currently, but he is a magnificent man.
Listen, Will Ospreay's just going to keep doing Styles clashes until he can't take it anymore, and then he just has to jump.
And then in contrast, right now we have 5 members of my AEW 9 are still on the tier list. I think that some of them might still, like Ricky Starks, probably is gonna go, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But Sheamus, report is that he signed a multi-year deal. It was not said how long that deal is, but it seems like he's sticking around.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Good for him.
This was something that you, I think, brought up also in our discussion chambers. Also, I'm just going to plop up here for people that are watching this stream. He's a confirmed stay, so Sheamus is being removed from the tier list at this point. So something that you brought up was how definite of reporting we would need, like what signs we needed for looking at the 2 ends of the tier list now as safe jump, safe stay, and then beyond that, confirmed jump, confirmed stay. I think I agree with some of our committee members that there is a little bit more of a hurdle to jump to get that confirmation that this person has jumped, rather than the ability to take somebody off and then put them back on if they fall down the tier list.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think I agree with that, and I'm fine with it. So yeah, essentially, like, we're not gonna say confirmed jump until we actually, see them on TV, and we get some type of official confirmation that they have jumped. But for confirmed stay, we'll be a little bit more, lenient in terms of just, as long as we get a trustworthy news source saying that they stayed, that's usually enough.
Yeah, and usually when we're looking at a confirmed jump, even if they've been like even if we have a very reputable outlet saying they have signed, we usually keep them on until they've actually gone through the curtain, so to speak.
Yes.
So
Right.
so yeah, that's the tier list at the current moment. I wasn't sure if there was any AEW media rights stuff. I just plopped this back on just in case. Was there anything new about that this week?
Yeah, I think we do need to talk about the Oran report from Puck. I don't want, obviously, this isn't like the focus of the podcast or the media rights stuff, but I do think it's interesting and it's tangentially related just because as these TV rights increase and AEW has more revenue, that does play a trickle down role into how we view the likely jumping or staying because it's based on how much AEW might be willing to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's important to kind of just talk about and keep in mind. So the report is weird the way it is, and I think a lot of people are misreading it because the report is, Oran was saying, the rumored $170 million number that was discussed on various wrestling message boards, which I don't know what he's talking about, first of all. I've not seen any wrestling message boards mentioning 170 million specifically.
Oh, I've seen that.
When?
Oh, that's because that was the number that's being floated for the package for Warner Brothers.
Right, but I'm saying in that report that he said that everyone is kind of going the 170 at. If you read the actual report, he just says that there are rumors that on various wrestling message boards that $170 million a year is the number, and then I've been told that number is in the ballpark, is what he got it confirmed from someone in AEW. So based off of that, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is I don't remember this 170. The only thing I remember is maybe a year ago where there was that, there was that on the Wrestling Observer board where they had that 200, it was like the $1 billion for over 5 years that was getting tossed around for a short period. That was the only one I remembered. So I do think it's important to keep in mind that the 170 is not a number that was actually, coming from anyone that would know anything. All we've heard is that someone that would know said 170 was in the ballpark. So having said that, I do think it's interesting, and I was waiting for someone to bring this up, and Thurston ended up doing a little write-up behind his paywall. So if you have WrestleNomics on Patreon, you can check this out. But he asked the question, how come AEW, if this number is accurate, how come AEW is worth so much more than NXT when you break it down per hour? And I think that's a valid question to ask because you look at the ratings, they're very similar. They do similar numbers. So the question then became, well, is it that AEW's viewers are just younger, which they are, but are they also, is this this idea that they're a lot wealthier, which, apparently they are, but is there more to it? Is it something that AEW's fan base is more engaged, and that's something that advertisers are interested in compared to NXT?
Well, I mean, like let's look at it from a few different perspectives to break down this because we're comparing a 2-hour program that I guess every other month they do a pay-per-view, right? NXT does, maybe every 3 months they do a pay-per-view, and they don't tour also, right?
Right.
So it's 2 hours a week of that product versus 5 hours, we'll call it, of AEW's product that is able to draw overall over the course of a week.
Well, hang on. It's actually 4 because they said in the report that it's going to be.
No, we're mixing. That's the Puck stuff. We're talking about the WrestleNomics stuff.
Okay, that's fine. We'll go with the WrestleNomics stuff.
Yeah. So with the NXT comparison, it's just that so it's 5 hours that they're getting double the viewership overall of NXT, right? So in addition, they also are doing pay-per-view numbers that are more viewership. We don't have the the stats for NXT, but they're not flaunting the stats about NXT's viewership for their PLEs on Peacock. So one would presume then that they're not something that they're trying to boast about. And then also on top of all that, when NXT tries to do live shows, they fail. It looks like.
So the engagement's not
The
at the
engagement,
level.
yeah. So every single way that you can measure it, even though NXT's 2-hour block of TV sometimes creeps up on 2 hours of the 5 hours that AEW has every week, it's like the engagement is not there. There's not something lucrative about this product. That's just all it boils down to. And I guess also that if WWE is looking at NXT as maybe as a sacrificial lamb a little bit in their portfolio, which is something that I think that he brought up as a concept of something, was that WWE just didn't care with the negotiating the rights for NXT.
And
so,
they just wanted something on broadcast.
Yeah.
They would be willing to do that.
yeah,
That's possible. Now, if we break it down, so it's $25 million a year is what NXT is getting. So that basically is $12.5 million per hour.
yeah,
If let's say that it's 5 hours of AEW programming and then let's say the puck number is accurate. It's 170 for 5 hours of programming. That's 34 million. So that's like, almost triple.
yeah.
AEW is making almost triple per hour, and that's assuming that it's 5, because Rampage may not be included in that and may be canceled, and that's something separate completely. It may be 4. And it may or may not include pay-per-view. We don't know that either. So it's hard to do these comparisons. But regardless, it shows that AEW, for whatever reason, is higher on the media rights. Now, my question, because you brought this up, did WWE just value having it on broadcast more? And I question that a little bit, because if there were other people that were offering more money, there's an argument that they had a fiduciary duty to go with that higher person, unless they can make the argument that broadcast is going to be more valuable. And it's CW.
But because CW has affiliates in every single market in America, they do have a broader potential audience on CW than they would on USA.
Yeah, and that's also possible.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what this deal actually entails, and who knows? The rumor is it might be within a week we get this info, because I believe Tony Khan said within the next month. He's fairly confident that we'd hear something. Wasn't that we said at the All Out presser?
Yeah, something like that. And it seems like from what Puck and from the people that were counter or follow-up reporting from Puck, like PW Insider and everybody like that, was saying the 170 number that's being thrown around would be for whatever package Warner Brothers is receiving on linear television. So whatever 4 or 5 hours of programming is that they're going to be receiving, that would be for that. It wouldn't be for possibility of Max integration or anything of the pay-per-views or Aftershock or Shockwave or what. Shockwave, that's the name of the AEW thing, Shockwave.
Yes.
That number means that there is a lot of room for the good old one bill fill to still happen. Even though, of course, the rumor is that it's not even a 5-year deal, which kind of is interesting too. But yeah, it seems like that there's room there for them to get up to $200 million a year, which is what like the goal number was. I feel like.
Yeah, the 5-year deal thing though is interesting to me, to the point where I don't necessarily. I think it's a moot point, because it's a 3-year deal with a 4th-year option. That's just what they did last time.
Yeah.
So that's just how AEW deals have been. So it's not like they were 5 before and now they're down to 3.
Yeah.
And you take a look at WWE. I mean, they have 5-year deals, but they've always had 5-year deals. So yeah, but that's all I have for the media rights.
Cool. So how about we go down the current look of the WrestleWatch tier list Starting up in Safe Jump, we have Hikuleo, Motor City Machine Guns, and the Lucha Brothers. We still also have the WWE TNA relationship, which I think we might be. I think I mentioned it again last week, but I think I forgot to get some interest in getting it removed, but we might get removed soon enough.
Yeah. All right. Likely jump. We have Bobby Lashley and Michael Oku.
It's kind of fun how the Safe Jump is the WWE people, and the Likely Jump seems to be the AEW people.
Yeah.
Lean Jump, we have Ricky Stark, Zilla Fatu, MVP, Jordan Grace, Daniel Garcia, and Miro. Zilla Fatu seems to have finished his relationship with GCW. There has been some rumors that it might be due to something about booking decisions or him showing up or something like that.
Yeah, we might be talking about that next week. I don't know. I tend to think it's not him going to WWE, but I think it's just indie promoters and wrestlers arguing over money. Tale as old as time.
That's what my vibe on it is that that's my vibe. Yeah. So toss up. We have Speedball Mike Bailey, Mustafa Ali, Danhausen, Megan Bain, Josh Alexander, Mina Shirakawa, and Beth Phoenix. And it looks like Mina's going back to AEW. We'll see if it is for good, I suppose.
Yep. And then Lean Stay, we have Kevin Owens, Viva Van, Shelton Benjamin, Joe Hendry, Ninja Mac, Shinsuke Nakamura, Dijak, the Hardys, Trevor Lee, Mayu Iwatani, and Alex Windsor.
Down in Likely Stay, it's Sami Zayn and Tekla.
And then finally for Safe Stay, we have Sariri, Utami Hayashishita, Hook, Street Profits, El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., Dustin Rhodes, El Hijo de Vikingo, Katsuhiko Nakajima, Shane McMahon, Alex Wolf, Britt Baker, Becky Lynch, Bozilla, Saraya, and Giselle Shaw.
Okay, so for the hot takes this week, I have a hot take. I don't know if I said this one last week. So correct me if I already said this one. It's about Excalibur. Did I say this on air last week?
You may have. Say that again. We'll
Excalibur is my least favorite play-by-play announcer in AEW and ROH right now.
You said that last week, but I think it's good to be readdressed. Yeah, that's fine. I have one for you.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about Ring of Honor,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, we're thinking about the entire saga of Ring of Honor since Tony Khan bought it. I believe that Ring of Honor would have been better off if Tony Khan had not done anything with it other than do like an annual show like the ECW One Night Stand and just kept it with that and nothing else.
I'm going to say that's a pretty warm take. Because I think that just because the execution of what has happened with Ring of Honor has not been fully to my liking, I think that there's been some great things that they've done with it. I think that they've been developing pretty well their women through it. I think Lee Johnson has developed a lot via Ring of Honor existing than he would have through just staying on Dark. But I think that there's been a big gap between how Dark was able to get talent over and onto the main roster of AEW when compared to Ring of Honor's ability to get people over and then on the quote-unquote main roster. So I think that that's a warm take, but I'm intrigued by that take. I'm very intrigued by it. Here's one that's a fresh one from me this week, okay? That's a fresh boy. Kota Ibushi versus Yoshihiko is the ultimate gateway drug wrestling match to show to people who don't really watch wrestling.
I think that's a pretty cold take. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I think because I think that's the thing is like a lot of people are going to view wrestling as kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think when you immediately show them something that they no longer have to, have the oh, this is ridiculous discussion, because it obviously is. I think that's good. The one that I'll throw up there is that one Peter Pan match with the one single light tube.
Yeah.
Like that's another good one to show.
I showed someone today Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan.
I was in the crowd for that.
Same kind of vibe. Where like, you know, they were texting me, "Oh, the bad boy goggles," you know. It's like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a silly match that like it's just like it's pure performance art kind of a thing, you know. It's pure theater.
When I fell to the floor when they landed on me.
Wow, I didn't know that we had a certified famous member of wrestling history on the podcast, but it seems like we do.
Absolutely. All right. I think is that it for this week?
Yeah, that is the end of our episode of WrestleWatch this week. If you liked our episode, please give it a like, the thumbs up, ring the bell, you know, all of that stuff. Please engage with us on all of our outlets that we have. We have our Twitter feed, or X as the kids call it now. We have Substack, YouTube, and whatever podcast platform of your choice. You can follow along with WrestleWatch there.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Y'all have a great night.
All right, everybody, please.